Hello and happy October. It is officially spooky season, because for me technically spooky season started like in September, because the earlier the better, but we are in October, it's Halloween month and I'm so excited. I have a lot of books that I want to read this month and this season in general, so in autumn. I've decided to do a little autumn TBR instead. Normally I would do like a wrap up and then what I want to read in the next month, but today's just going to be my September wrap up, because next I'm going to be doing my autumn TBR and autumn recs, so do look out for that video. But without further ado, let's go through all of the books that I read in September. So firstly, a couple of stats. I completed 6 books this month. I say completed because I did start one that I didn't finish, and I finished one that I started last month. So the 6 that I completed are the ones I will be including in this video. And in total I read 2,310 pages. I am really enjoying tracking these kinds of stats because I find it really interesting to see how many pages I'm reading, because reading like a big book, for example, counts as one book, but it's maybe like 800 pages, whereas you could read like 2 books for that. So I think it's nice to put in perspective books and pages. Anyway, it's just my data mind like rambling. Let's forget about that. Let's talk about the books that I have read. So the first book that I read, I don't have the physical copy because I borrowed it from my sister, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is like the most hyped book of the year, of the century to be honest, but I did enjoy it. So it follows this girl whose mum is a general, and she has to join this school where she learns how to fight and then learns to become a dragon rider. She wants to be in what is called the scribe quadrant, where she does mostly like reading, writing and logging and things like that, but her mum has other plans for her and makes her join the fighting quadrant. It's kind of giving Divergent, but anyway. So she joins this, and then she meets someone who's like kind of her enemy because of something that happened in the past with her mother, who's the general. She has a sister as well and a brother who both went into the Dragon's Quadrant, so it's kind of like a family legacy and tradition that she should do that. But she wanted to be a scribe like her dad. Her dad is dead. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it tells you that near the start. Anyway, this book follows her growth throughout the book as she becomes a rider and gets a bit more confidence in herself and a bit more experience. She is in there with her best friend, and also who's a guy who she has a crush on. But anyway, and there's also this guy, you know, like the dark, mysterious enemy guy. Who knew? I'm not going to give it much away, but yeah, basically it was very romance heavy. It wasn't fantasy for me. I'd say it was like romantasy with the emphasis on romance. I do enjoy romantasy, but I think I went in not expecting how much romance would be in this book. It's like quite a central plot to it. So if you are into romantasy, then 100% yes. If you're not into romance at all and only like fantasy, this book probably isn't for you. And if you're into romance and want to dip your toe into the fantasy genre, this book is definitely for you. So yeah, this book is, I think I went through some of it in my 24-hour reading vlog as well. But yeah, the book is good, but I feel like it lacked a lot of things. Like the characters, a lot of them lacked a bit of depth. The dragons had the biggest personality in my opinion out of everyone. I did absolutely adore the dragons. I think I said this was a 4-star last time, but after thinking about it, I'd say it's like a 3.5 pushing on to 4. So on my Goodreads, I rated it 4 stars, but if I could, I'd probably rate it like 3.5. It's good, but it's not like the most groundbreaking, amazing thing I've ever read. And I think if it hadn't been so hyped, it would have been a 4-star. But when you go into a book that's super hyped and then it's not as amazing as you thought, it's more of a letdown than if you just go in not expecting that much. So I'd say go in expecting a good book that's fast paced and engaging. It starts the story right away. It's got a nice like bit of romance in it. The dragons are great. It's a good book. It's just not amazing. Okay, I know that that's like super hype, so maybe that's a controversial opinion, but anyway, we're moving on to the second book that I read this year, and that was The Queen's Gambit. That was for a book club that I'm part of, and I don't say this very often, but the show was better than the book. Let that sink in. I like almost never think that. I'm always like pro book. I'm like, book's better than the film, book's better than the TV series. Anytime I'm watching something where I read the book first, I'm just like, that didn't happen in the book. I'm that person. I'm a bore. But anyway, I actually preferred the TV series for this. I think a lot of it was around that there's quite a bit of like chess notation written into the book, which if you're really, really into chess and understand chess notation, you might be able to picture what's going on with the book. So her story is really interesting, and I felt like I followed along with what happened in her life and really enjoyed that aspect of it. And when she was playing the games, you could kind of tell when she was winning and when she was losing based on her thoughts and feelings, but you kind of missed out on the chess aspect as well if you don't really understand what was going on. Like, it was still good, but I'm just waiting for you to be great. It was a 3-star for me. I enjoyed the main character and like her development throughout it. I feel like I kind of knew what happened because the TV series very closely followed the book, which I do appreciate. But her character goes through a lot of development and you understand her, but everyone else is literally just a side character. She is main character energy. Everyone else just doesn't exist in that book. There's loads of characters mentioned, but none of them are explored. There's no relationship between any other like people in the book really explored. There was also this really weird traumatic thing that happened at the start of the book. Trigger warning, I guess. But yeah, she basically gets sexually assaulted when she was a child, and it is never brought up in the book again. It is never talked about, nothing. It just kind of goes sexual assault, never mentioned again. And that felt kind of meh to me. It just felt a little bit weird and off, and it kind of took me by surprise because the TV series doesn't have that. But anyway, if you live under a rock basically, and you've not seen The Queen's Gambit, watch it. But also if you've not seen it, a quick rundown of what the story is about. It's about this girl who is orphaned when she's younger and she learns to play chess with the janitor. She is like an absolute whiz at it and she does really, really well. She beats him and then beats all these people in a school who are like high school age, well she's like 11. She then gets she does something and then can't play chess for a while, and then she gets adopted and then eventually starts playing chess again, and then she's like winning and such, and it's her growth from learning to play chess and what happens to her based off of the trauma from her childhood. I hope that's not giving much away. I don't think it has, but yeah, watch the show. Watch the show. Read the book if you're really into chess, or read the book if you really like the show. Moving on, the third book that I read, I have physically. So the first one, Fourth Wing, was for my sister. The Queen's Gambit was on my Kindle. The third one was The Kiss Curse by Erin. This is the follow-up book from the X-Hex, and it was autumn. It was autumn vibes, and I was here for it. I loved it. It is silly. It is so silly. Do not go into this expecting a good book. If you go in expecting great literature with an amazing plot, you're gonna hate it. You're gonna be so disappointed. But if you go in for the vibe, if you're just like, I want something that's funny, chill, autumny, Halloweeny, witchy vibes, then this is for you. It was such a great palate cleanser book, and also a great book I think to read in the autumn season. I rated this 3 stars. So if you've not read the X-Hex, then the X-Hex follows a girl and her ex. I mean, it's kind of in the name. This book follows that girl's cousin, and she is in the first book quite a lot as well, and I absolutely love her character. She has a shop that she runs. It's like a witchy shop in a town that has witch energy in it, and even like a witch university and stuff, but none of the humans know. They think that the witchy stuff is all fake and Halloweeny because it's a Halloween town. So she's running this shop of witchy goods, but none of those things are actually magical, right? Because she's a witch, but everyone else doesn't know she's a witch except the other witches. Anyway, I'm rambling. It's about a witch. And the ex-hex, the guy that dates the girl, his brother has came into town and also opened a shop that sells witchy goods. So they're kind of like battling against each other because they both want to obviously sell stuff, and they're like in this kind of like feud. And then something happens and they need to team up together to try and resolve it. So they don't like each other, especially because there was something that happened years ago where the girl, what was her name again? Gwyn, is it? Yes, it is Gwyn. Gwyn, she hates Wells, the guy, because he was really rude to her when she was younger in university, and he doesn't remember or know that, so she like hates him, and he's like, why does she hate me? But anyway, you should read this book if you like witchy vibes and you're here for autumn. And yeah, perfect October read, to be honest. I gave it, I think I've already said, I gave it a 3-star. Would definitely recommend just for the vibes alone. So after reading that, I knew I needed another witchy book. So I read a book on my Kindle, and it was a book I got from Kindle Unlimited, and it's called The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And oh, it was so sweet. It was the cutest book imaginable. It was witchy vibes times 100 compared to like the Kiss Curse. It was so cute. So it follows this girl who is in a society of witches, but none of these witches can meet outside of their meetings because they need to stay solitary so that they go unnoticed, so that humans don't know that these witches exist. She has a social media channel where she posts like witchy videos, but obviously doing fake witchy stuff. But this person watching it thinks she's a real witch. He's like, I think she's a real witch. And they have a house with children who are witches, but none of the adults are witches. So they want a witch to come and like tutor those children and help them with their magic. So they recruit her to come. She gets there and a lot of people are welcoming, except one guy who's this grumpy librarian guy. And yeah, he's like not really trusting her and stuff. So the book explores her kind of like, it's like found family aspects where she's like this outcast person who's not ever really had a family or anyone to rely on, because all witches are orphans. Their parents die not long after a witch is born. So yeah, she was an orphan and she was moving from place to place, and then she moves here, and it's her kind of like meeting these people, getting to know them, opening up, and it follows that story, and it's just so sweet. It's so sweet and it's so cute. And again, witchy vibes, great for October. Perfect for if you're wanting like a light-hearted, feel-good read. I would definitely recommend. I rated this 3.5 stars. I can't remember what my Goodreads rating is. It's either 3 or 4 because you can't rate by half stars. The next book that I read is another physical book, and that is Mexican Gothic. This was so slow. The start of it was so slow to get into, and it felt like such a struggle to like get through the pages. So I think it's like about 300 pages, and the first 200 are like quite bland in my opinion. But the last 100 makes up for it. So the last 100 pages brings the whole story together. It gives it a good conclusive ending. The things start to make sense. It starts to get a bit creepier, and the ending is really good. I enjoyed that. So if the ending hadn't been great, it probably would have been like a 2-star for me, but the last 100 pages brought it up to a 3-star. So this basically follows a girl in Mexico City, and she is like a socialite. She likes to go out and party and stuff. Her family are rich, and her dad gets this letter from her cousin where she's claiming that there's like ghosts in this house that she's in. So her cousin has recently got married to this guy, and Naomi, the main girl socialite, her dad thinks that he wanted to marry her for the money. So he is already like really sus about her, and because they're like quite high up in society, he's like, I need it to go well though, and not to end in divorce because that looks bad on the family. So he sends Naomi to go and check on her cousin Catalina, and her house is like in the middle of nowhere. So she goes from Mexico City to this house in the middle of nowhere, and then weird things start happening in the house. So it's kind of like haunted house vibes, set in Mexico. There's a little bit of romance in the book, but not much. It's good. Question mark. I know a lot of people who absolutely adore this book, like, not know them personally, but I've seen reviews. And I've also seen reviews of people who have hated this book, and I can understand both points of view. Her writing style I found nice. Like, it was a really nice writing style. It was quite, at points, nice and like eloquent, but it flowed really well. So it was like nice, easy page turner for a lot of the reading, but some of it at points was a little bit clunky. I don't really know how to feel about this book. I feel like I need to sit and simmer on it a bit more and decide whether or not I like it, but the cover is really pretty. But yeah, I don't know whether or not to recommend this book or not. So the last book that I read is The Haunting Season, and this is short stories from multiple authors, and it is recommended for ghostly tales for long winter nights. So it's kind of like horror stories, and they're like 30 pages or so each. It's hard to rate a book of short stories by multiple authors, I think, because each story was so vastly different with such a different writing style, and some of the stories were really good and some were just, to me, fell quite short. So overall the book for me was 3 stars. There's not much I can say because it's all short stories, but yeah, each of them I feel like they're all kind of set in the past, like maybe like 1800s, 1900s. But there's not much else linking them other than that, unless there is a link and I missed it. But yeah, if you're looking for short stories that are like horror-y for autumn winter time, then I guess I would recommend it, but like don't go running off to try and get it. Yeah. So that's every book that I read in the month of September. As I said, I'll be releasing my autumn TBR and autumn recommendations video shortly, so do keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye!